This episode is sponsored by Circle K. Get the most savings on every gallon when you fuel with the Circle K Fleet Card. Learn more at CircleKFleetCards.com.
Hello and welcome to the State of the Fleet Industry, a weekly video series produced by Automotive Fleet magazine, which is sponsored by Circle K. I'm Mike Antich, editor of Automotive Fleet, and today I'd like to examine what's occurring in the fleet industry for the week of March 7th, 2022. In many ways, this week is simply a continuation of what we've all experienced for the past 2 years, where the fleet industry has been literally beaten up, pummeled with a series of 1-2 punches. First, we have the pandemic, and then the economic shutdown, followed by a widespread supply chain disruption, especially with the microprocessor shortage, which has created ongoing difficulties for the past 2 ordering cycles in sourcing replacement fleet vehicles. And then we start calendar year 2022 with the highest rate of inflation in 40 years. And now we're witnessing a dramatic escalation in the price of commodities, especially with the price of fuel, which is starting to get to be downright scary. This is all hitting home for the past several months as we've watched the retail price of gasoline rise at a record rate around the country. And in many places, the price of gasoline is at historic highs. For instance, in Los Angeles, my hometown, gasoline for the first time ever surpassed $5 per gallon, and this occurred literally overnight. So, for example, last week, gasoline prices in Los Angeles were averaging $4.57 per gallon. And then overnight on March 2nd, the price increased to $5 per gallon for the first time ever. And 2 days later, I'm seeing stations around Los Angeles selling gasoline at $5.30 per gallon. Plus, the price gougers are now emerging. Check this photo out on March 6th. In Los Angeles that shows one gasoline station selling regular unleaded gasoline at $7 per gallon. Now, admittedly, California historically does have some of the highest fuel prices nationwide, but gasoline prices are also surging across the U.S., especially since the tensions between Russia and Ukraine first started. Then these pricing pressures further intensified following the invasion of the Ukraine, and now the futures market is signaling even higher fuel prices as international threats grow to place sanctions on Russian oil exports. And on March 6th, according to data from AAA, the national average price of gasoline reached $4 per gallon in the U.S. for the first time since 2008, which was the start of the Great Recession. Plus, now that we have a shooting war that started in the Ukraine, it's also increased the price of key commodities that are used to manufacture products in the fleet industry, in particular, the cost of aluminum. And we covered the pricing pressures of aluminum extensively in last week's State of the Fleet Industry video. So in case you missed it, check out last week's video on how these geopolitical events are influencing the cost of aluminum, and you'll find that video on the Automotive Fleet website. But since last week, new trends are emerging very quickly in the metals market. Just last Thursday, we got word that key mills in the U.S. are informing top customers that they will reduce their annual production of aluminum, some by as much as 25%, due to the anticipation that it's going to be harder to source aluminum due to sanctions imposed on Russia. And this is significant because Russia is the 4th largest producer of aluminum in the world. But despite this, the real impact of this reduced production will not be felt for another 30 to 60 days due to the volume of aluminum that's either in U.S. ports or in transit aboard cargo ships or being loaded on ships at overseas ports. But once this inventory of aluminum works its way through the global supply chain, the anticipation is that global aluminum prices will go up even further. And this is alarming because today's aluminum prices are already at record levels. The Goldman Sachs group is now forecasting that the available supply of aluminum will decrease in calendar year 2022 to unprecedented low levels, which will further put upward pressure on the future price of aluminum. But besides aluminum, Russia is also one of the key sources in the global market for palladium. In fact, 1/3 of the world's supply of palladium comes out of Russia. So why is this important to the auto industry? Well, palladium is one of the rare earth metals essential to the manufacturing of catalytic converters. And if you thought catalytic converter thefts are currently at epidemic levels, just wait and see what happens when the price of palladium hits even higher record prices. And likewise, Russia is also one of the key sources in the global market for nickel. So again, why is the price of nickel important to the auto industry? Well, nickel is a key metal used in the manufacture of lithium batteries used in EVs and smartphones for that matter. And even prior to these sanctions, the price of nickel has increased 18% in 2022 and is now selling at 24,000 US dollars per metric ton on the London Metal Exchange. But when you look at these events at the macroeconomic level, it indicates that these increases in commodity prices will further exacerbate the inflationary pressures being felt around the world, which are already at a 40-year high. So in addition, there's also a concern that the war in the Ukraine may trigger a second disruption in the microprocessor supply chain beyond what we are currently experiencing. So for example, lasers are used in lithography, which is used to manufacture semiconductors, and many of these lasers operate using neon gas. Well, guess what? 50% of the world's neon gas comes from the Ukraine, and this neon gas is indispensable to microchip production. The concern is that if the war lasts longer than anticipated, it will disrupt the production and shipment of neon out of the Ukraine, resulting in new disruptions in the microprocessor supply chain. And although these events are occurring halfway around the world, the globalization of the automotive industry makes these events very relevant as to how much we're going to pay to operate our fleets, and it'll have a direct impact on our future fleet budgets. So with this as my final observation, I'd like to conclude my State of the Fleet Industry presentation for the week of March 7th, 2022, and I'd like to thank you for watching.